Well, I've just returned from a hurried and, quite frankly, a very intense trip to Israel, in part to get some firsthand information as to the ongoing war that Israel is forced to fight against the Iranian-backed terror groups of Hamas in the south, Hezbollah in the north, the Houthis of Yemen, and from Iran itself. But one of the most disgusting battles that Israel faces is against the Biden administration that pretends to support Israel just to placate Jewish voters here in the U.S., but which puts irrational pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, so it also can attempt to placate the anti-Semitic, Israel-hating leftists like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and other deranged members of the so-called squad. I walked through homes that had been burned down by rocket fire. I went with my friend Yael Eckstein, who's the CEO of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, to deliver food to impoverished elderly Jewish widows. You're going to see my conversation with Yael in just a few moments. On the very day that 6 hostages were taken after being held by Hamas for over 300 days and then murdered by being shot in the back of the head, Joe Biden, appearing back at the White House for the first time in 18 days after lounging on the beach that entire time, put the blame on the Israelis for not agreeing to a ceasefire. I guess Joe is too sunbaked to know that the Israelis actually have agreed to repeated ceasefire proposals, but Hamas has rejected every single one of them. Hamas doesn't want the war to end. They really don't. They don't want their civilians to stop dying. Look, I know that sounds harsh. It's just a solid fact. You see, they need civilians to die in order to drum up sympathy from the ignorant and evil forces in this world who would stand by with glee if Israel really was removed from the river to the sea. It's possible that some of the rich little snots sent to Ivy League schools who parade around in the utterly ridiculous Queers for Palestine garments are just so stupid as to not have a clue what they're even saying. Maybe their high-priced education is so rotten that they're unaware that if they showed up in Gaza or a Palestinian community wearing rainbow gear, they'd be tossed off the highest building in the neighborhood. And that the only country in the Middle East who would even tolerate their outburst of stupidity would actually be the democratically elected government of Israel. Because Israel protects free speech, even stupid free speech. Kamala Harris has boasted of telling Israel not to go into the Rafah area of Gaza because she, quote, read the maps. Yet it was actually in Rafah where the 6 murdered hostages were being held. I guess she can't read those maps very well either. Because I love Israel and believe God will deal severely with those who curse it, look, I don't want someone leading the United States with a combination of complete international ignorance along with biblical illiteracy, because it's bad foreign policy and it's aligning with evil. It's time America invokes God's blessing instead of his curse. And my friends, this election is increasingly less about Democrats and Republicans and a whole lot more about the alignment with biblical values against demonic values that advocate for an erasure of male and female, the killing of human babies for sheer convenience, and tolerating a government that will use all of its power to crush a point of view that threatens its control over us, including the voices of pastors in our pulpits. Let me shock you with something. 40 million Christians in America don't even vote. 40 million. And if you're one of them, shame on you. And by the way, if that offends you, too bad. But your failing to register and then dutifully vote is the reason that your teenage granddaughter may be forced to undress in the school locker room while boys undress in front of her and watch her undress. You're going to be the reason that a 75-year-old grandmother goes to prison for singing and praying for those women who are walking into an abortion clinic to kill their babies. And it will be on you that your pastor will be met at his home at 6 a.m. by a SWAT team and arrested for some hate crime because he boldly refused to marry two men to each other. Yes, Israel is on the line, but so is America. And it's time we care enough about both to quit acting like Joe Biden on the beach, soaking up the sun. We got to show up for the battle and pledge that as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.